Hey everyone. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people always wonder, why certain people are fans of things that, they shouldn't be fans of. And right here, I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, but I'm going to give more of an updated reason as to why I'm a fan of, well, the Berenstain Bears. I mean, I guess it's just because I'm in a Berenstain Bear kind of mood right now. I'm putting together some playlists of stuff that I've made throughout the years on my YouTube page. And I recently did get the new one of the new books they had, which is I think the Undersea Adventure or something like that. Um, but for me, I've always been a fan. I think ever since I was a young child. I mean, when I was a kid, I think one of the first books besides the Bible that my mom introduced me to was the Berenstain Bears. And when I saw the cartoon on CBS as a kid, and and even the specials that would repeat at times, I think in primetime networks like CBS, NBC, and I think even in syndication and mostly later on Disney Channel, it just it just stuck with me for quite some time, and I've never forgotten it. I remember back when I went to Patterson Elementary School in Fremont. Yeah, kind of strange that you have a Patterson school in Fremont, but that's what it was. And we had this, I think, what was it, reading club. I don't know if it was can't think of the name right now. It was some kind of reading club or something where you sold something, or it was something, I can't remember what it was, but basically they had a list of books you could get depending on how much you sold. Basically, like, I think it was candy or something. I can't really remember what it was, but it was something that you had to get maintain a goal towards. And I had done, I think, my fair share. I think it was candy. I'm not really sure, but it was around the first, second grade, and I sold what I needed to sell to get some Berenstain Bear books. And it wasn't, oh, go to the store and buy them. No, it was more like, you do what you can, you get this, because they had like a sheet of it. It's like a sheet with the pictures of the books and stuff. And it wasn't just Berenstain either, but I liked the Berenstain Bears, and one things that I liked. And they had all these bunch of books, including the newest ones that had come out at the time. One of the newest ones was, of course, Bad Dream, which ironically had come out about the time that Transformers the movie came out. So, or about a year or so after, a few years after, or something like that. So I decided to want to get that one and enjoy it. So long story short, I did what I had to obtain that goal, and I got maybe one or two, three Berenstain Bear books out of it. But then I guess they got torn up or lost or something like that. I can't really remember. So anyway, I've always been a fan of them, and even when I went and started high school, junior high, for a brief period over in Oskaloosa. I think it's when I did junior high for a brief period at Oskaloosa High, and Oskaloosa at the Oskaloosa school districts, and then went back and did it again for Oskaloosa High. That the library we all shared. It had one section that was just for kids. And I remember going in there a few times and just, I think doing free time or something like that, just reading one of the books, seeing what they had, and seeing that they had Berenstain Bear books. And I just would try to read them, try to check them out. Because I liked the Berenstain Bears, I really did. And it was just something that always stuck with me, like I said, since I was a kid. Because I think it was one of the first things, besides the Bible, that my mom introduced me to, because it was pure entertainment. It wasn't violent, it wasn't dark, it had a good moral to it. It had a good, it was just pure entertainment for a kid at my age, and it just stuck with me, because even to this day I look at it as one of those pure forms that of entertainment for the entire family. Doesn't matter what age you are, that you could sit back and enjoy and not be offended, and not worry about, not be offended about what they say, what they show, or anything like that. It's just pure family entertainment, and I've always liked it. Always liked that about it. And when I found out that PBS was releasing the Berenstain Bears, was doing a new Berenstain Bears series, and I was living in Kansas at this time, and it was basically about 3 years after I'd moved out on my own. I decided I was going to record it, so I used my Apex recorder, and then later on my ILO recorder, DVD-wise, DVD recorders that is, and I would record them. And I got a majority of the PBS series recorded onto DVD. And along with it, at the same time, Dick Entertainment had gotten this weekend morning block on several syndicated stations. This weekend morning block, Saturday and Sunday, mostly Saturday, in syndication, where they were showing the Berenstain Bears. And I'm not talking the new PBS ones, I'm talking the original CBS series that I saw as a kid. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I started recording those alongside the PBS ones. And it just brought back a lot of memories, because you could see, because I remember waking up and watching those in the morning, and then watching, I think before or after, Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling. I remember watching that back when I was a kid. And what's funny about this is you could see the difference between the Bears, between both incarnations or animated incarnations of the Berenstain Bears. You could see that there were similarities, like both series had two 11-minute shorts. They always had that they would, two 11-minute episodes that they would air together. And I remember, and one of the big differences that I could recall when I was looking at it, and this is when I was what, I was going to be what. It's hard. I'm going to be 37 in about a few weeks, in about a week and a half. I was about 24, 25, and I just looking at it, recording and looking at the difference, and the biggest difference was the first story was usually a adapted story, is what it was. It was usually an adaptation, and then the second story would always be a original story. It would always be something original. And the biggest difference I noticed between the two was the secondary story would always have, two antagonists in that program. One of the antagonists was a con artist, and the other was a weasel. So, Weasel McGreed, I think, and what was the con artist's name? Rotten Ralph or something like that. Yeah, or Ralph Ripoff, whatever they called him. And the thing was that it was through that show that these two characters, they were made specifically for the cartoon back then, in 1985 to 87, were actually transferred over into the books later on, mostly in the big chapter books and the Bear Scout chapter books. So that was pretty cool to see. But they were introduced as the antagonists to the Berenstain Bears. The Weasel wanted to take over Bear Country, make it into Weasel Country. And Rotten Ralph, or Ralph Ripoff, was always conning Papa Bear into doing something stupid, or spending his money, or doing this or doing that. He was just a con artist. And I could see that big difference, because the second one, the newest series back in 2003, yeah, that's when it came out, never did any of that. They never did any of that, which was kind of, it was kind of a I guess you could say, for PBS standards, it was kind of refreshing in a sense, because they weren't, doing original material. I mean, you would think at times they were, but they weren't, because what they were doing was they were doing the same 11-minute episode deal, 11-minute episode deal within the same episode. But they were adapting both stories were being adapted from current and past first-time books, and even some of the big chapter books. And that was kind of cool because you could see that even though they adapted it, just like a movie, like let's say Captain America: Civil War, or what is it? Captain America: Civil War, or like the upcoming Wolverine movie, Old Man Logan. You could tell that they adapt a lot of stuff from it, but you could tell it's loosely adapted because there are some things that are added in, taken out, and stuff like that. So, for me to see that was kind of unique because they were working around something that they realized, okay, we could adapt this. We could adapt this for the new show, but we can't adapt the whole thing because one, it would probably be a freaking 30-minute episode. And two, there are some things in the big chapter books it was being adapted from that might go over younger kids' heads. So I was okay with that. But again, the biggest difference is you could tell by the story tone in a sense that the 85 to 87 one was, again, just like the newer one, was meant to educate and just be an overall fun experience for families, mostly kids on Saturday mornings. But it was also something that you could tell, because it was the 80s, was a little bit more mature at times, because there was one episode that a big chapter book did adapt itself. Yeah, there's an episode that a big chapter book adapted. It was called The Substitute. And what happened was, long story short, in case you guys haven't seen this, and there are spoilers, so I do apologize, Too Tall and his gang looked at the substitute and thought, you know what? We're going to have fun with the substitute. We're going to embarrass, humiliate, da-da-da-da-da. They're going to do all these kind of pranks. Well, in the original story, which was animated, which was presented as an original animated story back in the 1980s Berenstain Bears cartoon, all that was being set in place. But what happened was, Too Tall and his gang, along with brother and cousin Fred, kind of changed their minds when they saw that the substitute was an attractive young bear that seemingly looked like she just got out of college or just got out of high school herself. And what I mean by attractive, basically, when they saw her, they were like, "Holy crap, you're the substitute?" And she introduces herself. She sees the basketball, and basically she kind of plays a little bit. And she's basically like someone they can relate to. And you can see that Too Tall and his gang, and even brother and cousin Fred, are smitten with her. They're basically tritopated, as it's called in Disney's Bambi, by her presence. So basically that story, which was originally created for the 1980s cartoon, was adapted into a big chapter book, but they basically took it a step further. They changed things around, they kind of adapted it, but expanded on it, and they did change things around. They basically went the route that was being planned out in the cartoon by Too Tall and his gang, by having the pranks actually happen to a different substitute, having the pranks happen, having the humiliation happen, until, it backfired on them, and you have to read the story yourself to know what I mean. But that is the biggest difference there, because if they were to pull something like that off with the new Berenstain Bear cartoon they did back in 2003 to about 2005, I think, or 2006, they wouldn't get away with it. Because even though it's a PBS cartoon, it's a cartoon and everything, it's on PBS. They wouldn't be able to get away with something like that. But that's what I liked about it, was the fact that there was that difference. Like, you could go back and you could watch the original Berenstain Bears cartoon from the 80s and be like, yeah, I can understand this, I get this, I like it. And you could see the difference in sort of like maturity when it came to the writing and stuff. Compare it to the newer one, which was much more educational, but still had that familiar Berenstain Bears, but still had that familiar Berenstain Bears presence, animated presence that the original 1980s cartoon had. Basically, it felt the same, although you could see the difference. Another thing, so that basically, before I get into what I'm about to say, that is what also helped me stay as a fan. Another thing that helped me stay as a fan was when I found out that there were, as I mentioned earlier, talking about that one episode, there was a series of books called the Big Chapter Books. And I looked in on these, and basically these were aimed at the older kids. Basically, Mike Berenstain, who's currently the head writer for the Berenstain Bears, he came up with the concept. Him and his brother, I think, well, mostly him, and at times I think along with his brother, came up with the concept to, create a book series aimed at the older kids, knowing that the kids were going to grow out of the first time books and the step-by-step reading books and the I Can Read books and, like I said, the first time books and stuff like that. They decided, you know what, we need to keep those fans, so let's evolve, let's grow the Berenstain Bears brand and create books that they can relate to. Because basically the age range was going from 4th grade all the way up to, I think, 8th or 9th grade at times. Well, basically that's how far I think it was going. Because what you read in the book, if you were, a kid, 1st, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, some of this would go over your head. Yeah, they would point out on the back of the book, it would say 3.5 or 4.5 or 5.5 or 6. But it would go straight over your head, some of the things they were talking about. Some of the subjects they would, some of the subjects they were focusing on. And what was interesting about this as well is it expanded on the characters more. It was more about the Cubs, because you were growing up with the Cubs, and that's basically what it was. It was to grow up, it was to allow the readers that had started with the first time books, or started all the way back with the step-by-step, and then the I Can Read, and then finally the first time books. It was allowing them to grow with the Bear Cubs, because now you were seeing the Bear Cubs in situations that they can now grow up and relate to them with. Maybe some of the stuff was a little over their head as well. Oh, because even I was surprised when I read the books, and I've read each and every one of them. I have most, if not all, of the Big Chapter Book series. And I read through them, and some of the stuff they put in there goes right over I'm pretty sure would go right over the intended age range, which makes me think some of these books are aimed for, like, maybe, basically like the TVY7 of the Berenstain Bears. Like, they're for 7 and up. And we just don't realize that. And some of the things even goes over a 7-year-old's head. But my point is, when I read some of that stuff, it kind of surprised me what some of the subjects and topics they were focusing on. But again, like I said, it also expanded the characters. It also expanded and developed a lot of the characters, not just brother and sister, and Lizzie and Cousin Fred, but it developed everybody. It gave character development to Too Tall and his gang. It gave character development to Queenie McBear, who got introduced in the first time books and really became a co-character, kind of like semi-major character, or sort of a not a minor character, but sort of like a supporting character, supporting major character, or co-major character, semi-major character, if you will, in the PBS series. It put a lot of focus on her. It introduced us to a character exclusive to the Big Chapter books till later on. I think they expanded her into the first time books and such, and that was Bonnie Brown, who became like a love interest to Brother. Then you had characters that got introduced, like Big Bertha, in the female fullback episode, which also got adapted over into like I said, into the PBS series, but it was one of those adaptations they had to loosely adapt, take certain things out and put certain things in that you could see there's the similarities between them, but they were different. It introduced Professor Factual, who got introduced in the books as well as in the 80s cartoon series. It introduced his nephew. It introduced a lot of characters, and through some of these characters really put a lot of development into them, as well as and there was even a character called Abs, or Barbara, Barbara Ann, or Babs Bear, or Babs Grizzly, whatever her name is. She was the daughter of a chief, the police chief, and she sort of had a crush on Brother. And again, there was all these different characters that they introduced in the big chapter book series, and they put a lot of development on. They even introduced a character that was handicapped in a wheelchair. It was a computer whiz and everything. And they put some focus on him. Basically, the big chapter book series focused on subjects that, again, some of them might go over the heads of their intended reading audience, but also put a lot of character development on a lot of characters beyond the Bear family. So that was pretty cool. Well, and that's what really attracted me to want to get the entire series, in which I did. I also got some of the Berenstain Bear Scout series, because they're sort of like the big chapter book series, but maybe just for maybe a year or so younger, but still, I got a kick out of it. I liked it. And I've collected Berenstain Bear books since then. I've gone to the half-price bookstore in Lawrence, Kansas, got some of the chapter book and first-time books there, including some books I probably wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. Gone to Amazon and done it. I've just been, went to Hastings, stuff like that. I would just, anywhere I could find a Berenstain Bear book, I would get it, if it was new. So, I've always been a fan. And I like the fact that they are going into more Christian-related books as well, because you still get your first-time books, even though they don't say first-time books anymore. On the upper left-hand corner, they don't say first-time books anymore. You can tell the first-time books. But I like the fact that they're integrating those into the Living Lights books, which is basically Christian books, which when you open begins, the first page you see begins with a passage from the Bible. So I like that. I really do. I really like that, because not only do you get your Berenstain, your dose of Berenstain Bears, but you get your dose of the Bible. You get your dose of Bible lessons courtesy of the Berenstain Bears. So I really enjoyed that. What I also liked was what Walmart did, and I'm pretty sure this has been expanded over to Amazon now, was the release of almost the entire series. This is basically, I can almost guarantee the entire series. I can't say if it's all the same, if some of them have the same episodes or not. I'm pretty sure some do. But this is called the Family Values box set, which I can guarantee includes a majority of the episodes on each disc. And it's a total of over 8 hours to watch and enjoy. But overall, looking back on it now, since I've been, again, I got introduced to the Berenstain Bears, I think, was one of the first books I got introduced to besides the Bible. And looking at it for as long as I've been around it, which I could say is 30 plus years now, it's still as good as ever, it's still as fresh as ever. They're definitely trying to keep up to date. And if they ever do get a movie off the ground, which I'm not sure if there's any news about that yet, it's supposed to be, from what I understood, they're supposed to have worked at Walden Media or something and done something similar to where they're in the human world. I can't really say. So maybe they scrapped that, and maybe if they're still doing a movie, it's going to be based more in the Berenstain Bear world. But we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I would love to see one happen. I've even gone on record as saying, maybe they need to do another Berenstain Bears cartoon, but this time you need to age the characters. Don't keep brother and sister the same age as they are. Age them. Make them into pre-teens if you have to. This is the way I look at it. If you're going to do another if they're going to do another Berenstain Bears cartoon in the future, take inspiration from the big chapter book series, base it off that, and put it as part of, and if you're going to keep it on PBS, make it as part of the PBS Go block, which is aimed towards that older kid audience, so they can relate more to it. But we'll just have to wait and see if that ever comes to fruition. But I'd just like to say in closing that I'm not ashamed of being a Berenstain Bear fan. I know some people, even my family, might tease me about it sometimes, or jokingly tease me about it, but I'm not ashamed of it. I like it, and I'm going to continue to like it. You know, it's just one of those pure forms of entertainment that's out there that you can't get anywhere else. So, and to me, it is educational, but it's not like in-your-face educational like a lot of shows that might be on PBS or other networks. So, but that's all I'm going to say, folks. Let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like, and tell me how long you've been a fan. And I'll talk to y'all later. And do you think maybe we'll get a new series, a cartoon series that is, based on what I just mentioned? Tell me what you think, and I'll talk to y'all later.